Hello and welcome back to the second last of the collection showcases, where in case you have missed it, throughout all of January on Wednesdays, I was posting like full hour or two videos going through some of my collection, where I started off with my Doctor Who collection, then I worked my way through Star Trek, then my Blu-ray movies, and then my TV show collection was the most recent one last Wednesday, and now today is my DVD movie collection. So, like with my Blu-ray movie collection, of course, this is broken up into movies I have seen and movies I haven't seen. Now, when it comes to movies that I have seen, large and part, a lot of these do not have Blu-ray releases. Or they do have a Blu-ray release and it's just way too more expensive than it is just to own the DVD copy. For example, Dogma, just off the top of my head, because I'm actually looking at my DVD copy of Dogma, or, any of the Studio Ghibli films. They can be slightly more pricier than what I would be willing to pay. So yeah, with that being said, let's get started. There is no numerical order for this, but we do have, of course, in alphabetical order, starting off with the Irish film Adam and Paul. I watched this for the very first time last year after seeing a bunch of clips of it on TikTok. And I watched it on YouTube because you can, just look up Adam and Paul and you'll find it on YouTube. And it's absolutely hilarious, but also it kind of is like a dark comedy in a sense, where it's basically these two fellas, Adam and Paul, wake up and basically try to go about getting their next fix. They're a bunch of drug addicts, and so it's just them going throughout the day trying to find their next fix and all that stuff, as well as dealing and constantly coming into problems, especially for Paul. He gets the bad brunt of it all. And there's a ton of funny scenes from the movie, such as where one of them needs to take a shit really badly, and he's like, "I'm not wiping me hole with your crisp packet," that type of stuff. That's probably like my worst attempt at a Dublin accent. But you get the idea. So it's not like one of my favorite Irish movies of all time, but it's up there. Next is another Irish film called Agnes Brown. So what a lot of people would know this from would be the Mrs. Brown's Boys. This is a lot closer to the original Agnes Brown books that Brandon O'Carroll released. And so in the 90s, I believe Angelica Hudson, who plays Agnes Brown, read the books and was very, very interested in the film. And I have to say, she does a phenomenal Irish accent. I was really, really, really taken aback by it. And, I rewatched it last year for the first time since I did a review of it, because this was, again, one of my early reviews for the channel. And it still holds up. I absolutely love it. And I would prefer this over, the Mrs. Brown Boys of today. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, I absolutely love that movie. Next is another movie from my childhood, and that is Bionicle Mask of Light. Now, I did cover this in one of the trilogy months that I done last year. And unfortunately, this is the only one that I have kept out of the other two, simply because I did, after rewatching Legend of Motunui and Web of Shadows, I realized just how shit they are compared to the awesomeness that is the first Bionicle movie. And I have to say, there is a lot of nostalgia bias behind that statement, because I used to watch this on VHS on repeat because of how amazing I thought it was from as a kid. So yeah, that's why that's why it's the only one that I have in my collection. And sadly, the first three do not have Blu-ray releases. The same goes for Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. This is the movie that would then later get a TV show. So, this does have Tim Allen as Buzz, unlike the TV series that had Patrick Warburton play Buzz. But this is, again, something that I grew up on a lot as a kid. This and the TV show. And, of course, the PlayStation 1 video game that spawned off of it. That Buzz Lightyear of Star Command was one of my favorite video games of all time. I'm pretty sure I might still have it. If not, I think I got rid of it. But it is absolutely amazing. You can actually see me talking in the reflection. So, hello. Moving on to more childhood movies of my that I absolutely love. And that is the first live action Ben 10 movie, Ben 10 Race Against Time. I remember being so hyped for this when it came out. There was no theatrical run for this. It was only shown on Cartoon Network, and then, of course, only has a DVD release. And I was so hyped for it. I remember, hoping to see some of my favorite aliens in live action, but we don't really get a lot. We do see the ones that we get here. We get Heat Blast, Wild Mutt, Diamond Head, Diamond Head, Diamond Dude. I keep wanting to call him Diamond Dude, but that's a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Gray Matter are just some of the small few that we do get to see, because of course it's they're going to be CG, and that costs a lot of money, especially in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, which is when this came out. Now, I haven't seen it in nearly 20 years. So I definitely do want to give that another shot. And as well, because technically it's canon to its own universe, from what I understand from what Omniverse done. Because Eon, the big bad in this, does make an appearance in Ultimate Alien and Omniverse, where it's revealed to be an alternate Ben, unlike in this one where Eon is just his own thing. Also, funny enough, this is actually this movie was my first introduction to Robert Picardo from of Star Trek Voyager. He is in this, and he as a character. I forget the name of the character, but he plays one of the plumbers anyway. And then the other Ben 10 movie that I have seen that doesn't have a Blu-ray release is, of course, Secrets of the Omnitrix. And again, I remember being absolutely hyped for this movie when it came out. And it is, it was originally a movie, but then for the final season of original Ben 10, it got added on as like a multi-parter. But it was originally a movie, and it also has the exclusive 3 alternative beginnings, because apparently there were different aliens that Ben turned into at within the first second. One of them was introducing us to I Guy for the very first time. I forget which one it was for us that I seen when this came out, because again, we're talking about 20 years ago now. But yeah, next is probably one of my favorite Robbie Williams movies. Robin Williams, not Robbie Williams. And that is Bicentennial Man. This, again, was one of my early movie reviews on the channel. I love it. I stumbled across this randomly on RTE as a kid, and I watched a massive chunk of it, because it is a long movie. I think it's like nearly 3 hours long. And I have watched it a few times since. It's one that I won't watch yearly, but I'll watch every couple of years and fall in love with it all over again. And I made a YouTube short about it last year that keeps blowing up. Actually, well, when I say blowing up, it still gets a couple of hundred views every now and again. Next up is Cheaper by the Dozen, another childhood classic that I remember watching quite a bit. And if I remember correctly, Gerald Padalecki might be in this. But someone do correct me if I'm wrong. And then, of course, I do have Cheaper by the Dozen too. Haven't seen them in 20 years, but I do remember enjoying them quite a bit as a kid. Next is the first of the steelbooks, the DVD steelbooks that I have, and that is for Daredevil, the definitive edition. So this was a pretty cheap pickup, and I do remember watching this. Don't remember anything that happened in it, but I do remember watching it, and I do remember enjoying it. But then again, I was a kid, and I have not seen it in nearly 20 years. So I definitely do want to give the Ben Affleck Daredevil another look at some point. Next up is Digimon the movie, another childhood classic of mine that I did a review for last year. I thought it was about time that I gave it a rewatch after 20 years. So yeah, I'm not going to go too much into that. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, of course, I do have a DVD copy of Dogma because the Blu-ray, as of recording this on the 14th of January, is still expensive. But I think Kevin Smith has confirmed that because this year marks the 25th anniversary of this movie, that it will get another, and because he's bought the rights back from Harvey Weinstein, he is going to finally put out like new copies of the Blu-ray, as well as re-release it in cinema for the 25th anniversary. I've seen it once in full, I believe, but I haven't seen it in quite some time, so I definitely do want to rewatch that at some point. One of my favorite Eddie Murphy films is Daddy Daycare. Again, another absolute classic that I remember watching as a kid and absolutely loved it. And I loved Eddie Murphy as a kid because I thought he was absolutely hilarious. Next up is East is East. Now, like I said, I do know this does have a Blu-ray release, but at the moment, it was just cheaper to get the DVD copy. Now, this was a movie that I watched in film school, and I can't remember for the life of me if I've seen it in full. But I do remember it from, the vast majority of what I've seen of it, I thoroughly enjoyed. Now, I haven't seen it in, we're coming up to 10 years now, probably about nearly 10 years, about 8 or 9 years since I last seen it. So I definitely do want to give it another go. Now, this next one, Ethel and Ernest. Whew, this movie, man. The beginning of last year, this movie was all clips of it were all over TikTok. So, if you remember the Christmas classic, The Snowman, the 25-minute short that has we're walking in the air. This is Raymond. I forget his last name. There it is down there, Raymond Briggs. He wrote that as a book, and then he also done a book on how his parents met and, leading into, going through their lives with him being born and all of that. From the 20s into World War II, because a lot of it does focus on World War II. And this movie broke me last year. This was the first movie that I watched, new movie that I watched. Well, it's been out for a few years, but it was the first new movie that I watched last year that I instantly gave a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd because of just how amazing and a beautiful story this is, and so heartbreaking at the end. And the animation style, the artwork is superb. And I probably will rewatch it soon, because I loved it that much. And I love Brenda and Jim in it, who obviously voices Ethel and Ernest. They were absolutely amazing, and made me fall in love with the characters. So next up is my favorite movie of all time, Howl's Moving Castle. Now, like I said, I do know a Blu-ray of this exists. However, I think I paid like €1 or two for this DVD copy. Whereas I know buying the Blu-ray for Howl's Moving Castle right now is about 20 to 30, which is far more than what I want to pay right now for my favorite movie, having my favorite movie of all time. So I'm happy enough just sticking with the DVD. Next is one that I have yet to actually upgrade to Blu-ray. That is Full Metal Jacket. This was a movie that I watched last year for the very first time, though I had seen parts of it on RTE, of the training, up as far as, where Private Pyle kills the sergeant and himself, and that scarred the living fuck out of me as a kid, to the point where I never forgot about it, until I eventually sat down and watched Full Metal Jacket. Now, the first half of the movie when they're in the boot camp is absolutely amazing. I loved it. But when they went into, the Vietnam War, that's where I kind of fell off on it. But I still get what Kubrick was trying to convey with that. So that is definitely one I do want to upgrade onto Blu-ray at some point. Next up is Homeward Bound. I do not think I've ever seen this in full, but I know I've seen enough of it for me to put it here. Because again, I remember watching this a lot in primary school. Whenever we'd have movie days in school, this would be one that would be shown. And so yeah, to me, I'm counting it as that I've seen it, even though I don't think I've seen it in full. Because I get wishy-washy with that. Sometimes with a movie that I have seen bits and pieces of, but I know I haven't seen in full, I put it in movies I haven't seen. But with Homeward Bound, I decided to put it in movies that I have seen. Next up is Inside I'm Dancing. Yet another movie that I watched from film school, and it's also by the director of East is East. And I don't think I've seen this in full, but I do remember seeing a lot of it in film school, and I absolutely fell in love with it. But it's been a while. Again, we're approaching the 8 or 9 years since I seen it, so I'm probably due a full rewatch at some point. Next up is Inspector Gadget 2. I am 98% sure that I have seen this. I've definitely seen and loved the first one. But again, this is probably one of those fever dreams that I have of me watching it. Of course, Matthew Broderick didn't come back. We have somebody else in playing Inspector Gadget. I think it was a straight to VHS release. But yeah, I definitely have been keeping my eye out for the first one. I just haven't seen it yet out and about. Next up is Our Day Out, play from the BBC's Play of the Week. So yeah, this was a movie that I see. I reviewed it last year because I could not for the life of me remember the name of it. And I've talked about this before. When I picked it up and when I reviewed it. Where basically, I watched it in secondary school, for years, could not remember the name of it, found the name of it, and saw that there was no physical release for it, and then randomly stumbled across it on Amazon for like €18. And there was like maybe 2 copies left, so I bought it, and then it went out of stock immediately, so I was a bit worried that I wasn't going to get it, but thankfully I did, and I have watched it in full, and I absolutely loved it. So again, like I said, I did do a review for it last year. Coming up to Of Mice and Men. Now, a lot of people do, this is something that is covered in secondary school. I watched it on my own volition. You see, back in primary school, I was, on good terms with my school's librarian. And so she recommended this to me to watch. to see what I thought of it. And so I did, and I remember enjoying it. Now, this is, again, going well over 10 years now since I actually last watched it. But yeah, this wasn't the one, wasn't one of the books slash movies that we covered for me for English in secondary school. I watched it as a recommendation from one of my teachers. So yeah, still need to go back and watch it. Speaking of another recommendation from a teacher, this time we're going all the way back to primary school with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I can tell you now, it has been over 10 years. So we're talking 2010 to 2011 here. I'm definitely going to say 2011. But yeah, so this was a kind of a, because during art, sometimes my teacher would play music, and one of the songs that would come up would be something from this song from this movie, and I was like, so I asked her about it, and she told me that it's from the film Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And so then I eventually I caught it on one of the stations, and I watched it, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's and again, it has been over a decade since I last sat down and watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So I now need to move these off to the side whilst I go get the next stack. Okie dokie. I have the next stack, so let's start off with a movie that I fell in love with, and that is Parked. So back in 2022, when or slash 2021, when I first started collecting, I picked this up on a whim. I saw that it was an Irish movie. It had Colm Meaney in it, and obviously I loved Colm Meaney from Star Trek, Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine. And so I was like, I'll give it a shot. And so I eventually did. And when I say this movie broke me, I really mean it broke me. This is a movie that I recommend to everyone to watch at least once. It is on Amazon Prime Video. And it... So, to give you the premise is, Colm Meaney's character comes back to Ireland from England, realizes that his father has passed on and no longer lives there, and because of that, then he ends up homeless, living out of his car. And then he forms an unlikely friendship with Colin Morgan, who, if you've seen Merlin, you'd recognize him from that. He's also appeared in Doctor Who in the episode Midnight. And so it's just them forging this unlikely friendship that ends in a tragedy, and you are not ready for that. I can tell you that much. It is a beautiful film. I think it's like an hour and a half or an hour and 20 minutes, give or take. But it is such a beautiful film, such an amazingly shot film, and absolutely highly recommend it. Yeah, so it's 90 minutes long, so it's an hour and a half. You will not regret it, but bring tissues if you do decide to watch Parked, because it is such a Debbie Downer of a film towards the end, but it's so worth it. Anyway, on a lighter note, let's get on to some more childhood favorites of mine, and that is, of course, the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie. This one I definitely watched quite a bit on VHS. I wasn't around for when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was a thing. I was born in 98, so by the time I was born, they were on In Space. I think they were on and doing Power Rangers in Space, because when I got into Power Rangers, it was Lightspeed Rescue in the early 2000s. But anyway, yeah, so of course, being mad into Power Rangers, my mom got me a VHS of this, and so I would, of course, watch it religiously. So this was my introduction to Power Rangers. Like I said as well, the Ultimate Power Ranger, the Best of Power Ranger DVD that I showed in my TV show collection last week. This was this were my introduction to other Power Ranger seasons. And then later on, of course, I did eventually watch Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. Now, a lot of Power Ranger fans do not like this movie, and they do not like Turbo in general. I don't mind the movie. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I love the suits. I love the Car Ranger suits, which is the Sentai equivalent. I love the morphers, and I love the vehicles. I just really really enjoy the suits. But there's a lot of inconsistencies of what happened to the Zeo powers and all that. And I know for the non-Power Ranger fans, that's just gone. What I've just explained just gone over your heads. Back to some steelbooks. We have a DVD steelbook for Pulp Fiction. This was a first time watch recently enough. And from what I've seen, I did enjoy it, but my least favorite part of the was the Bruce Willis sections. But I did say that I would need to rewatch the film to probably fully grasp it. And it does come with some art cards, and I think I need a rewatch before I decide if I want to stick these up on my wall. So yeah, there's nothing on the back. There's Uma Thurman, there's Bruce Willis, and then we're back to the beginning, like so. So yeah, it's just these art cards. So yeah, I don't know when I'm going to rewatch this, simply because of how long it is and how much other movies I do need to watch to prioritize before I give Pulp Fiction another shot. Next up is a movie that I really did not like. So then why do you own it, Michael? Well, because it's a pretty sick looking DVD steelbook. So yeah, there's only 2 Predator films that I really, really liked. And that is, of course, the first Predator movie, because I'd be a fucking idiot if I said I didn't like the first Predator movie. And The Predators, the third Predator movie with Adrian Brody in it. That was released in 2008. But yeah, I might need to give this another rewatch, because the way from what I was watching and the way I read the blurb of it, made me think it was going in a completely different direction than where I thought it was going. But yeah, I have reviewed all the Predator movies as well. I actually finished up the Predator films last year, but of course there is going to be a new Predator film coming out this year, so technically I amn't done, but we'll see. Next up is some more childhood favorites of mine, and that is Recess School's Out. This was the last Recess project released, I believe. Someone do correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's basically the lead up to summer vacation, and then of course there's other stuff that goes wrong, and I have not seen it in over 20 years, but I definitely will be rewatching it soon. Will I do a review for it? Probably not, because I have rewatched this next one, and that is Recess All Grown Down. Now, this is technically a movie because it does exist on Letterboxd, and I did rewatch it, and it's okay. It's basically just a prolonged episode of the show, with a lot of flashbacks. It does deal with like a mass amount of flashbacks, but I still enjoyed it. For my rewatch of it, because again, I haven't seen it in 20 years. Moving on to The Return of the Living Dead. This is a film that my cousin introduced me to, and I thought I enjoyed it, but for as a really, really bad movie, like a B horror movie or D horror movie. And then of course I rewatched it last year for one of my Halloween reviews, and I absolutely fucking loved it, and then learned that there were sequels to this franchise, so I definitely probably will give those a shot. I don't know, we'll see. And now we get into a whole bunch of different childhood classics of mine, starting off with the Rugrats movie. So yeah, this was again this and Rugrats Go to Paris, and then of course there is a crossover with the Wild Thornberrys called Rugrats Go Wild, because I'm actually looking at the poster now for that. And again, these are just ones that I grew up on, and I definitely have not seen in 20 odd years. Now we get into a whole bunch of Scooby-Doos, starting off with Scooby-Doo Meets the Boo Brothers. Have not seen this in over 20 years. Probably will give it a rewatch soon. But I probably won't review it. I think I'll save that just to watch it on my own time. The same with Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Now, I know some of these have been getting Blu-ray releases, but that is American exclusive, because how I know they are getting some Blu-ray multi-packs is because a nerd named Ryan has picked up a few last year, and he's of course made some TikTok/YouTube shorts about them. And then of course I do have Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, which is another one that I remember watching quite a bit on VHS. Because again, there was a time when I was a kid that I went through a massive Scooby-Doo phase, where I would watch nothing but Scooby-Doo episodes, as well as movies such as, as we see here, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. But I have not seen a lot of these in a while. But I have rewatched Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, which I did do a review on, because this is my favorite Scooby-Doo movie. I loved it as a kid. I loved the video game. I still have the PS1 game. So yeah, and then of course, to getting down to near the end of the Scooby-Doos, we have Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, which again is one that I've seen on DVD, not VHS. But I also do have Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. This is again another one that I remember watching as a kid, especially Scooby-Doo and the Loch Ness Monster was another absolute favorite of mine back when I was in second class, because that memory just jolted back. Now for my favorite musical of all time. Yes, this is a musical. Fuck you, fight me. It is South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Now, I know this has a Blu-ray release. It's a US import. I know I can play it on my Xbox One. I just don't care enough to actually import it. I'm just happy enough with the DVD copy. Now, these next three are Star Wars movies. So I technically do have these on VHS, which will be next week's video, DVD, and Blu-ray. So, Michael, I hear you asking, why the fuck do you have these on three different platforms, VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray? The reason I have them on VHS is because I found them, and they are, of course, the special editions. The same with the Blu-ray ones, they are the special editions. Now, these limited edition ones do have the special editions on them. However, on the second disc, they do have a VHS rip of the original theatrical cut, the unedited version, the non-special edition versions. So they do exist on these DVDs, and that is the only reason I have it on three different formats, was because of that. And that reason alone, because I do want to eventually watch when I do want to rewatch the original trilogy, I do want to go and watch the theatrical versions, because I've only ever seen the special editions. The last two for this stack here is The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, another film that I have not seen in over 20 years that I definitely do want to rewatch, though I remember it being initially a 3D movie, so a lot of the CG is definitely not going to fucking hold up. And then the last one that I have for this stack is Stitch the movie, because again, to my knowledge, only the first movie, Lilo and Stitch, exists on Blu-ray. The others, like Stitch the movie, as well as I think there's one more Lilo and Stitch movie, which takes place after the end of the cartoon, does not exist on Blu-ray. But then again, someone do correct me if I am wrong. So now it's time for me to go get the final stack for the first alcove. Okay, so this last stack for the first alcove is finishing up the movies that I have seen that don't have Blu-ray releases, or if they do, they are way too expensive. And then we get into the movies that I have not seen. So wrapping things up, we do have The Field, another Irish film with Richard Harris. as well as John Hurt and Sean Bean. I watched this for the first time last year, and I absolutely fell in love with it because the only Richard Harris films I've seen were the first two Harry Potter films, because Richard Harris was the original Dumbledore before Michael Gambon took over. And so I watched this movie, and it is absolutely amazing. And Richard Harris is fucking phenomenal in this movie. The same with Sean Bean, and John Hurt. They're all absolutely amazing in this movie. But specifically Richard Harris. My God, his performance in this movie is legendary. But speaking of another phenomenal Irish film, and that is The Wind That Shakes the Barley. Now, I have, again, my YouTube short on this keeps gaining views every now and again, but this is one of my favorite Irish movies of all time. This is probably Cillian Murphy's best performance, and yes, I am including this over Oppenheimer, because this movie is amazing. It is one of the best Irish movies ever made, in my opinion. It's tied with Michael Collins, because it does take place during the Irish War for Independence as well as the Irish Civil War, and Cillian Murphy absolutely kills it in this movie. Absolutely kills it, and I find it. There are certain scenes that I find absolutely difficult to watch. It is that powerful to depict how the Irish were treated at that time. There's at the beginning of the movie, there's an Irish man named Michael or Mihal that gets brutally beaten to death simply for speaking in Irish. And then later on in the film, there's a really big torture scene, trying to get information about the IRA out. Well, not just the IRA, but just them in general, their attack patterns and all that. And it is massively difficult for me to sit through and watch. I get uncomfortable because it's so real. This is what happened. Before the 1916 Rising, and afterwards when it started for the war for independence, and then of course as well with the Civil War that we had after we got the 26 counties. Back to some lighter movies. We do have one of my favorite childhood films of all time, The Little Vampire, which I did do a review for last year, and discovered that there was a animated remake of this, and which I have not seen. But I took a look at what it looked like, and dear God, I will never watch that. I think I'll stick to that movie. Thank you very much. The Land Before Time. These movies were absolutely fucking amazing and massive tearjerkers to millennials around the world. But it is such a beautiful film. I have not seen it in over 20 years. I definitely need to. My favorite movie as a kid. Now I've talked about, as I've, been making this video, I've talked about, one of my favorite movies as a kid. This was it. This was my favorite movie as a child. Thomas and the Magic Railroad. And to this day, I know if I'm struggling to sleep, and I put this on, I'm out like a light. Within 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, I am out like a light. It works that well. I love this movie so much that I got a poster of it, a real poster, off of Garrett over at Video Tasties, which you can see the poster right there. All I had to do was, of course, pay for shipping for that and a bunch of other posters. But I love this movie. Now, like I said, it does have a Blu-ray release. It was a Shout Factory boutique label exclusive, so it is fucking expensive. And only released in America to limited numbers for the 20th anniversary of the film. Next, we do have Thunderbirds. So this is the Jonathan Frakes directed Thunderbirds movie. I loved it as a kid. Have not seen it in 20 years. So I did not put the stickers on it. This is how I bought it. So Yeah, getting down to the last few of the movies that I have seen, we do have another Irish film of The Snapper. Absolutely brilliant film. Highly recommend you watch it. Colomini is absolutely amazing in this. I've seen it multiple times, and it still holds up as one of my favorite Irish movies of all time. But of course, that goes to The Wind That Shakes the Barley. Next, of course, is The Witches. The original version of The Witches. I have seen bits and pieces of this from primary school, because I think we were trying to. I remember we were reading the book, then we watched the movie, and then we had to write our own witches storyline. But I can't remember what I wrote it on. Next up is a multi-pack, and that is, at the time, all the Karate Kid movies. So that's Karate Kid 1, Karate Kid Part 2, Karate Kid Part 3, and the next Karate Kid. I love the Karate Kid franchise. I absolutely love it. I have the first one on basically every platform that I have that I collect for: VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray. So I definitely will be keeping checking this out. And of course, this month, when this video does drop, we will be getting the last 5 episodes of Cobra Kai and then another Karate Kid movie in May. So I'm very looking forward to that. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. This movie does have a Blu-ray release, but it was never released in the UK and Ireland. This was a movie that I watched after I watched the AJ over at AJ's Movie Place review. I watched his review first, and it intrigued me so much that I eventually went and watched it myself. And I did do a review for it. It didn't do that well, but I absolutely loved this movie. I love this style of movie. It reminded me of Part, that movie that I mentioned way back in the early on in this video. So yeah, I absolutely loved that movie. And then the last for the movies that I have seen is Without a Paddle. I definitely have seen it in full, but I have not seen it in 20 years. Completely forgot all about it until I randomly found it in CEX. So those have been the movies that I have seen, over the past 42 minutes. Which the next couple of parts to this video is going to be absolutely quick, because I haven't seen these movies. So unlike, these stacks here, I can't really talk too much about them. So I'll probably just be flying through these. So again, in numerical order is 28 Weeks Later. I do have 28 Days Later as a Blu-ray that I found in a charity shop. So haven't seen that. Haven't seen 30 Days of Night. I have not seen the 3D CG version of Ben 10 Destroy All Aliens, because this came out way after I stopped watching the franchise, so I still have yet to see it. I still have not seen Beetlejuice. I was actually supposed to watch that last year for Halloween, but maybe this year. 1989 Batman. Michael Keaton Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Have not seen it. Probably will this year. Blade Runner. Have not seen it. Alien Resurrection as a DVD steelbook. I bought this because it was so cheap, but that was before I decided to actually properly review all the Alien films now, like I have done all the others. So this will be a review in March. I was originally going to do it this month, but then I got muddled with things. I forgot about my room tour at the start of this week, so that's why that's been pushed back to March. Akira, one of the most influential movies of all time. The sliding on the motorbike comes from this, and I'll get around to it eventually. Angel with Dirty Faces, again, I have not seen, but I will get around to it at some point. And then the last one for this stack is Alien vs. Predator 1. Once I've finished all of the Alien films, I will probably start watching the Alien vs. Predator films. I have no idea how far I'm going to go with the AVP films. If I'm just going to watch this one and then not touch the rest, or if I'll watch this one and check out the rest, I don't know yet. But yeah, now it's time for me to go put all of these back onto the bookcase and go grab the next stack. Okay, so here is where I'm basically just going to be rapid firing through these because, like I said, I haven't seen any of these before, so there's not really much that I can really talk about. So continuing in alphabetical order, we do have Breakfast at Tiffany's, a classic, so I have heard. Then we have Batman Unlimited Animal Instincts original movie. That was just a recent pickup. Another classic that I have not seen, Clockwork Orange. And I know this is basically now where I'm just going to lose my film fan card because of the amount of films that everyone swears by that I have yet to see. Continuing on with another, apparently one of the best movies ever made, being Citizen Kane. Haven't seen that, or Casablanca, which is another one I've heard a lot of people rave about. The original Clerks, have not seen it. Then we have another DVD steelbook, and that is for Die Hard 4.0, because I do want to get back into the Die Hards. Since I haven't since I watched the first one, I knew I wanted to at least give the others a try. Now this one, like I mentioned earlier, it's one of those where I've seen bits and pieces of it. Can't remember if I've seen it in full. So for the moment, Field of Dreams is going here. But I have seen, I want to say, again, my memory's fuzzy on it. So I potentially could have seen it in full. I remember bits and pieces of it. That's why it's going there. Next is Flight of the Navigator. I remember my mom saying that this was one of her favorite movies as a kid. So that's why I opted to go for it there. And then, of course, like I will say, next week in my VHS collection, I have a DVD copy of The Godfather Part 2, because I've only seen Part 1. As you can see there, there is some extra stuff that I do get with it, being this stuff right here. So we have some photos that I'll quickly thumb through here, because again, haven't seen the film, so I can't really make much comment on those. Let me just put them back into the card here. I guess they're postcards as well, but I'll never use them as postcards. And then there's the scrapbook as well, that goes through some stuff. Like so. So yeah, like I said, have not seen this. I will probably get around to it this year. But don't hold me to that. Because I could say that. And there have been many times where when I'm planning out my videos a month in advance, I'll write a movie down that I want to watch. But when it comes time to actually sitting down to watch it, I'll end up changing my mind. And I do have, of course, The Godfather Part 3, though a lot of people do say it's not the best, but I will I'll want to give my own judgment. And just like The Godfather Part 2, we have some postcards here. So we have that one, that one, that one, and that one, as well as the Mafia phraseology. I think that's how you say that. So that's it, like so. So obviously you can pause to read, and then that's the last page. Continuing on, we have Hawksaw Ridge, which is definitely one, because I keep seeing clips of it on my TikTok For You page. So I definitely want to watch this, and I will watch it probably very, very soon. Will I do a review for it? Probably not. The original Halloween, have not seen it. Then we get to Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part Deuce. Yeah, when I bought this, I initially thought I was just getting Hot Shots 1. I did not realize that that it was a multi-pack for both films. Realized that after I got home. But In the Name of the Father is another Irish film that I will probably do want to watch at some point. Back to some not Marvel. Jesus, that's going to get me fucking slayed in the comments. Some DC stuff. We have Justice League, Star-Crossed the movie. Have not seen. The same with Secret Origins. Next, I have the Lethal Weapon 4-pack. So it has all 4 Lethal Weapon films, which is, again, another franchise I do want to give a shot. Then, of course, Lord of the Flies. How I heard about this, actually, was through 2.5 Men, because it wasn't something that we covered in my school anyway. Another one I do want to watch is the film Legend. Because again, I keep seeing clips of it on my TikTok For You page, and I'm like, ooh, I definitely should watch that at some point. Next is a musical for Les Mis for the 35th anniversary, I believe, or 40th. Yeah, 35th anniversary for the stage play. So, because I've seen the movie, but I would want to watch the actual stage performance as well. And then the last one for this stack was a recommendation, and that is Lady in the Water. So yeah, you can also see a warped version of me in the reflection of that. So yeah, time for me to go grab the next stack. Okay, next up we have Leon. Yeah, like I said, haven't seen it. Haven't seen the original version of MASH. I have seen, of course, the TV show, but I do want to get around to the original. Misery is another one that I've heard nothing but great things about, especially in regards to Kathy Bates, who I idolize as an actress. There's definitely a lot of stuff I have seen prior, except for, Misery, that she's in, that I absolutely love. And, she's absolutely amazing. Then, of course, we have the original Miracle on 34th Street. Then we also have Me, Myself, and Irene, which I've heard is a great Jim Carrey film as well. Oliver. Now, this, well, for starters, this is not what I named my cat after, just in case those who are familiar with my channel know of my cat. But at the same time, primary school, I remember watching bits and pieces of it, but I know for a fact that I have not seen it in full. So that's why it's here. One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest, have not seen. Again, another recommendation was Ninja Scroll. Don't know really much anything about it. Followed by Night Watch as a DVD steelbook. Again, got that on a recommendation. Poltergeist, have not seen, but I've seen Family Guy do their parody of it in one of the early episodes. Philadelphia, have not seen. See, this is what I mean by I'm going through these really, really quickly, because there's just not a lot for me to really talk about. John Wayne's Rio Bravo, have not seen. Rayman, I've seen very little of it, but that's why it's in this section. And then we have another DVD steelbook for Rambo. This is the 2008 Rambo movie. Revenge of the Nerds is up next. Again, have not seen it. Raising Arizona, I've seen the opening for the very beginning of the film in film school, and that's about it. Now, Rush Hour and Rush Hour 2. Again, I've seen bits and pieces of this, but I've only seen Rush Hour 3, to be honest. Requiem for a Dream is another one that I've seen the opening to, I believe, in film school. Then we have Steve Jobs, specifically the Michael Fassbender version, because there are a few versions. And I have seen a clip from this a few times. And I have heard that out of all the Steve Jobs biopics, that this is one of the best ones. Getting down to the rest of this stack, we have again The Shining. I've of course seen bits and pieces, but not it in full. Then we have some Sherlock Holmes here, with the Hounds of Baskerville, as well as Voice of Terror. And then the last one for this stack is a Studio Ghibli film, being Spirited Away. I've only seen one Ghibli film, and that is Howl's Moving Castle. And yeah, now it's time for me to go pause this and go grab another stack. Okay, so continuing on with the original Salem slot. Haven't seen it. Shutter Island. I do know the twist ending, but I have not gotten around to it yet. Then, of course, there is the Punisher here, the Tom Jane Punisher, that I still have yet to watch. Because I know AJ is massively obsessed with the Punisher. Then, of course, there is the Last of the Mohicans. I have seen bits and pieces of this 2 years ago, give or take. Yeah, about 2 years ago. I've never seen it in full. So, then, of course, Taxi Driver. I'm actually going to get rid of that, so I'm not even going to show you what that one is. Then Taken, have not seen. The Departed, haven't seen. Silence of the Lambs. The Brandon Lee Crow film. Train Spotting. Let me move this back a bit. I think I've seen the intro for that, but that's about it. I have another DVD steelbook of The Company of Wolves. Have not seen it. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Haven't seen. This version of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm not sure how many other versions of it there are. Then we have The Wiz. Hold on, let me just rejig these real quick. The Princess Bride. Yeah, have not seen that. If I can, no, I can't zoom out. Then let me just do it here. The Iron Giant. Have not seen. Top Gun. Haven't seen it. The Secret of Kells. I started watching and I never finished. The remake of The Time Machine. Have not seen. Haven't seen that one, but I've seen bits and pieces of the original, which I still want to get my hands on, but it's an expensive DVD to get. I think it's like 18 to 20 euro just for the DVD. And now this one has multiple films in it. It's the Action Hero, but I put it in T for True Lies because that was the main reason why I bought it. But I have not seen True Lies. I have not seen the Detonator. Haven't seen. I've seen bits and pieces of Bad Boys. Have not seen The Foreigner or Hard Target. And then wrapping up this stack real quick is Weird Science. Have not seen it. And then the last one for this alcove is White Chicks. Have not seen it. So yeah, see what I mean by I'm going to get through this really, really quickly because this took me 13 minutes to go through. 3 stacks of movies that I just have not seen. That I will of course get around to eventually. Like I said, like I keep saying, my backlog is huge. I'll probably be dead before I get to finish this backlog. But I'm gonna go put these back and then get the final few stacks. So yeah, this is probably going to be the second shortest of the collection showcases because I've already filmed the VHS collection showcase, so that's about 27 minutes. Okay, just 2 more stacks to go through, and then that'll be it. So, yeah, continuing on, rapid fire here. We have Airplane. Have not seen it. The same with Anger Management. I think I have seen some of this version of Around the World in 80 Days. I'm almost certain of it, but then again, I was very young, so I can't remember if I have seen it in full, but I do know I've seen some of it. Then, of course, we have A Night at the Roxbury, because the main reason I have this in the collection is because of the Jim Carrey bit with the 3 of them, for the song, What Is Love. So obviously I want to have a look at that to see what the movie is like. Obviously, it doesn't have Jim Carrey, unfortunately. Continuing on, there's going to be a few Adam Sandlers in this, with Billy Madison. We had Anger Management just a second ago. We have Big Daddy as well. Bumblebee, I have not seen. Calamity Jane, I watched a bit of this with my nanny, which is what made me want to actually go and check it out for myself. Then we have, of course, one of the live action Death Note movies, Death Note L Changed the World, which is the 3rd movie in that franchise. Then we have Drive, which I have heard some good things about. Fury, again, I've seen a clip of this. The same clip it's always the same clip that I run across. Grabbers is another Irish film that I've heard that I got as a recommendation. London Boulevard I mainly got because it has Colin Farrell in it, and I do like him as an actor. Especially that one episode he was in Scrubs. I definitely really like that. Then we have Layer Cake, which the main reason I kept this is because I want to give this a shot is because Colm Meaney and Michael Gambon are in it. So yeah, I want to give that a shot. Obviously, as you see there, Daniel Craig is there as well. And then again with Pierre's Bounty, the main reason why I kept it is because it has Cillian Murphy in it, who I love, Brandon Gleeson, who I also love, Jim Borabint, butchered that, who I definitely love, Brandon Gleeson and Jim from the Harry Potter days. And then Jodie Whittaker, the 13th Doctor, is in this as well. So that's the whole reason why I kept there. Another Sandler film with Mr. Deeds. Then, of course, Last Action Hero. Another Sandler film, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. Igor. Eternal Intermission, which I have seen a clip of it going on. Again, of course, this is the names you see there. The reason why I have it: Colin Farrell, Colm Meaney, Cillian Murphy are in it. The scene that I have seen from this is where Cillian Murphy's character basically puts brown sauce into his tea, and apparently it makes it taste better. And then the last 2 for this stack is Eternal Affairs and It's a Wonderful Life, which I haven't seen the film, but I've seen a lot of the parodies of It's a Wonderful Life, like from the Fairly Odd Parents, just to name off the top of my head. So it's just one more little stack to go through, and then that will be it for the video. Okay, so the very last stack here, we have Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, which I also have on VHS, but you can see that video next Wednesday. The last of the steelbooks, we have Sin City, collector edition steelbook, which doesn't come with anything extra. So there is the 2 discs for that one. Serenity, the ending for Firefly, which I still have yet to see. Then we get into some Beatles stuff, which is we have the Beatles, the Red Album, which I'm pretty sure is a documentary for them. And then I also have the Beatles 8 Days a Week, The Touring Years, 2 disc special edition, which honestly, I absolutely love the look and feel of this. And then taking out of the cardboard there, if I just open this, it's them on stage, which is pretty cool. And then, flipping it over, there's 2 discs plus a big old booklet that goes through a lot of the behind the scenes, which is really, really cool. Ideally, because I know the Blu-ray is fairly cheap for this, what I do want to do at some point is buy the Blu-ray for this, and just take out the DVDs and put the Blu-rays in, and then just keep this, because I think that would just look, because it's a standard Amaray case for the Blu-ray, which sucks, but that's absolutely beautiful. So that's where I'll put it when I get the Blu-ray. Another Studio Ghibli film with Tales from Earthsea. Then another Transformers movie with Rise of the Beasts, which I have not seen. The final Sandler film of that I have not seen, of course, is The Wedding Singer. Then we have Thunderbird 6, the movie. The Shape of Water. We have the sequel to Sin City with The Spirit. I think it's the sequel. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And then the last 2 here, we have The Lady in the Van. And the last one is The Pursuit of Happiness. I have tried to watch this. I've seen clips of it as well. I just haven't gotten around to it. And that is everything. That is my entire DVD movie collection. I hope you enjoyed. And let me try to see what's coming up next on the channel, now that I actually do have the February planned out. So let's see. Yeah. After this, we have a discussion video, the first discussion video of the year, where I talk, is physical media truly gonna die? So I'll see you all on Friday for that upload.